3, 2. Okay, we made it.
Yay!
We made it. So the live stream is actually happening now after some strange technical difficulties, but you know what? That is technology. So
Right.
whatever. We're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Um, I am Jill Batesmore. I am half of Dahlia Law Group. And who else is here?
I'm Allysia Holland, the other half of Dahlia Law Group.
And I'm Bianca Jordan from Probate and Legal.
So we thought that we would do the most, because why do a little when you can do a lot? We started a live stream series exactly last week on on last Wednesday. We have done exactly two live streams at this point, and so why not just add another mini series, even though we have no idea how technology works and we're sort of learning it as we go. But this felt really, really important. Bianca, I am so inspired by your work, and our last conversation last week just really sort of lit me and Allysia on fire. And so what we are going to be talking about today is just sort of introducing a conversation mini-series where we are exploring the place where immigration law and policy, which is Bianca's expertise, meets up or intersects with legacy and estate planning. And so I would really like, and Allysia, if it's okay with you, to really start with an introduction from Bianca, and just explaining what it is that you do, and why you do it.
Sure. So I'm an immigration attorney, and my office is based in Massachusetts, but I help immigrants all over the world. And I have been practicing immigration law for 6 years next week, actually. And I've been working with immigration cases for about 10 years, but I've been an attorney for almost 6 years. And I love helping immigrants, especially in this area. I'm a daughter of Haitian immigrants. Both of my parents are from Haiti. I speak fluent Haitian Creole. And I noticed that there weren't a lot of Haitian attorneys in my area. And so that caused a lot of immigrants to have to go to non-attorneys, such as tax preparers or their local pastors, who, they all have the best intentions, I'm sure, but they're not attorneys. And so sometimes they're able to help people easily, other times not so much. So that's what really motivated me to become an attorney, specifically an immigration attorney, because my family's from Haiti. My family's all came here legally. So I've kind of over the years been able to see their immigration journey as well. And I want to help more people to come to the United States, get legal status, and help to build their family legacies.
Absolutely. And just acknowledging that some folks might not be familiar with us, like this conversation might be the thing that brings them to our YouTube channel. So I think it might be appropriate to introduce ourselves and our work and what we do and why. Allysia, why don't we start with you?
So, as I said, my name is Allysia Holland, and I am one half of Dahlia Law Group. And along with Jill, we are attorneys practicing in California. And in California, what we do is the area of law is legacy and estate planning, probate, and litigation. And so what we do is help people with telling their family story by way of legacy and the things that are important to them and their family, and making sure that the stories are documented, as well as the choices that they want made for making sure that they are well taken care of and that their people are well taken care of, are documented in a way that those choices can be respected.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I think, because I have sort of the studio controls, which sounds a whole lot more fancy than my skill set merits, You all might not be able to see the comments that are coming through, so I will do a better job of announcing those as they come. But Naomi is here, and she is saying hello, and she appreciates the conversation. She is saying happy anniversary, Bianca, and she really appreciates the way that you took your inspiration from your own family story to stand in the gap on behalf of others who deserve a legacy. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think Allysia introduced our work thoroughly and well, and I am a bit remiss. Actually, I'm a little upside down because I am exhausted. And,
I think we all are at this
yeah,
point.
it's just been, yeah, my sleep
100%.
schedule has been disrupted, and just about everybody I talk to this week is reporting that same thing. Allysia and I are talking about this on a near constant basis. And so, yeah, so I'm a little upside down. Plus, we were coming in hot to this live stream, and being late to things stresses me out. It doesn't stop me from being late all the time, but it does stress me out. So I'm like, we got to get in there. Anyway, but the first thing that we do, because we belong to ourselves first, we care for ourselves first, we are necessary to ourselves first, is to actually just check in and to really ask, how you doing? So now we know who you are and why you do what you do. Bianca, how are you?
I am tired. I definitely, it hit me this week where I really need a vacation, not just like to take a week off for work, but I need water. I need to just stare at water. Water is my reset, and I just need to be around water, preferably Caribbean, but the Rona kind of throwing a wrench in those plans. But even if I can just go away for a weekend with my husband and just like a staycation, even if it's just a local road trip or something. So I want to look into that in the next couple of weeks because your girl's tired.
Yes,
Yeah.
I get that. Alicia is nodding in a very knowing way. How are you
Yes.
doing, Holland?
I ditto, echo, cosign 100% the tired of it all, especially on today. It is reminded of why outside is closed, and that I am grateful that we do work and are set up in a way that I can work safely from home, because I was outside today just kind of taking care of some of the bits of business that can't be done remotely. And I can tell you that I am only dressed right now because I am talking to you all. Because I came home and did my delousing process of showering and everything and got myself back together. But even just making it to that part of my day, I was like that little wilting flower. I think there's that little meme where the lady's just sliding down the wall. I am her. She is me. So it's like, pull it together. We are talking to Bianca, and it makes me sad to be so tired about it because I'm so excited about this conversation and this topic, because the things that you shared with us when we talked last week, I'm like, say what? People need to know these things. So,
Yeah.
but I'm happy to be here, even with the tired.
Yeah, absolutely. At
How
one
are you?
I am, yeah, I'm just like you all. I'm tired. At one point today, my husband went out. He has started a gardening project in the backyard, and he finds some healing and respite in that. And so he went outside to check on the plant babies, and came in and said he found me just face down with my hands out. He was like, "If you look like you were doing the dead man's float," and I was just asleep. So anyway, I think everybody is just going through it, but and that's real. That is real. It is legitimate. It is right. It is a truth and a reality. And I think that there is power in naming that, because we are encouraged to be in our silos, in our respective silos anyway. And then working remotely or working from home, on our own, that can, I don't know about you all, but that can definitely make me feel even more siloed. And so it can feel like a really solitary experience. Like I'm the only one who's feeling what I'm feeling or going through what I'm going through. And so, so just hearing you all say, yeah, it's been a tiring week. I'm a little tired. There's a lot happening. Like I'm active in more spaces than just this space or just where I work or just at home, and that's taking its toll. That's really affirming. So thank you. Thank you for being that honest and for showing up with all of that. And since we're here, let's talk a little bit. Let's talk about immigration law. I think the way that we met Bianca was because Bianca has a beautiful practice. She shares widely and freely and generously on the Instagram platform. And like, if you are looking for some free legal advice, like hit that brazen legal account on Instagram and get all of your resources. Like, get it all. Go to her YouTube channel and get it all there. And I was inspired in particular because I don't see many Black immigration lawyers. And I also don't see many conversations about the ways that folks who are navigating an immigration journey have whole entire lives, children, businesses, taxes, interest, jobs, like all of it, that require attention and care, and that have their own legacy stories to tell, and that are attended to. And so Allysia and I saw a place for a place for a conversation about where our work intersects with your work for the benefit of the population of folks who are navigating an immigration journey. And so I'm really excited to have this series of conversations go wherever they're going to go, and we can talk about whatever we're going to talk about. I'm just really grateful that we're here together, and I hope that we're able to be a resource for people. I hear my voice a whole lot right now, and that's not really what I want. I would very much love Bianca for you to kind of take the lead here, and then we'll be your sixth woman on this. We'll back you up.
Yeah. Well, I'm really honored that you guys even thought of me, because for the most part, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm things I'm posting online, I'm just like kind of just sharing information. It's what I do. I'm very big on once you learn, give, once you learn, teach. So that's what I do. I have over 100 videos on YouTube where I'm just sharing free information. And it's not necessarily about getting people to hire me because, capacity wise, I am a solo. I can't help all of the immigrants in the world as much as I would love to, but at least I can share the information with people so that they can make informed decisions when they are going to another immigration attorney or, just starting the process to get right information, because there's a lot of wrong information on the internet. And I like to think that I'm providing accurate information, even though immigration law right now, it's literally changing every week. The man in the White House tomorrow is about to announce another change to immigration policy. He's expected to expand the latest executive order that went into effect in April. So immigration law is constantly changing. So I try to keep up as best as I can to give out information that I think would be useful and helpful to people.
Yeah. I noticed too that you. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I, for one, am astonished that you are saying that everything on the Googles is not the truth. I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do try to get their law degrees from the Google School of Law, and I try to tell them to just drop out. Don't even bother, because it's not worth it. But yeah, like surprisingly, a lot of the things on the interwebs are not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Key learnings already.
Imagine it. Imagine
Yeah.
it. Um, I was just going to say that I noticed that you provide most of you, if not all of your resources, both in English and in Haitian Creole. And I I am so inspired by that. Like I just the value of accessibility is a key value, um, and a leading value for us and how we operate our practice. And I'm like I just wanted to point that out in case anybody is watching this and is wondering, whether they'll be able to access the resources. And as far as Haitian Creole is concerned, the answer is yes. The answer is
Yeah,
yes.
I pretty much built my law firm on accessibility as being one of the main principles. When I first started my practice, I was helping a lot of domestic violence victims, and they weren't able to just, go Google or something about domestic violence without their abusers knowing. But I noticed that a lot of people were following me on Instagram. So I just started sharing information on Instagram because you could go on Instagram and you can look through my videos, and there would be no like paper trail or digital trail that your abuser could then, punish you for, because you're now getting information on how to get a green card for domestic violence victims. And similarly with the Haitian Creole, a lot of Haitian people in this community don't have access to attorneys. So where I can speak this language and I can relay that information, I do make it a point to make as many of my videos in Haitian Creole as well.
I really, really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. So I think that we've kind of introduced like why we're here and why we're having this conversation, and we'll be having more conversations in the future. But there was one thing that came out of our last conversation that blew my wig straight out into the front lawn. Like, I mean, my bangs were just out in the street by the mailbox. So if Allysia, if you and Bianca could walk us through that, I'm going to take this opportunity to shut all the way up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love for you to share, Bianca, what you were telling us. And when we're talking about our last conversation, believe it or not, we actually did a dress rehearsal. So all the tech issues that happened today is like, really though? Just out here looking like a booger. But that's all right.
It's all good. Things happen. We made it. We're here.
Yeah.
So last week, I shared a lot of different things last week. I think one of the main things
some of the ramifications of things that cause people to be barred from being able to seek citizenship, and some really simple things that people just wouldn't think about. So because I will be in my outraged feelings about what I remember, I want you to tell it to the people straight so that I am not one of the inaccurate people on the internet just out here talking.
Sure. So generally speaking, just to kind of give people a little bit of a background for immigration as well, as we know, millions of people try to immigrate to the United States in search of a better life. They're in search of the American dream. But if you are prohibited from ever being able to become a U.S. citizen, then you're not going to be able to get a visa or a green card, because it's deemed as like a permanent bar to U.S. citizenship. So it's a permanent bar to coming into the United States. Even if you don't even want to become a U.S. citizen, there are people who get a green card every year and they're totally fine having a green card for their life. They don't ever become a U.S. citizen. But nonetheless, if you are permanently barred from becoming a U.S. citizen, you won't be able to get a green card. So last week we were talking about a couple people that have come to see me over the past few months that have wanted a green card or citizenship. And in some instances, we find out that they're barred from doing either because they accidentally voted. And this issue comes up, especially nowadays. I don't know for where you guys are, but in Massachusetts, we started auto-enrolling people or registering people to vote when you get a driver's license or when you renew your driver's license. They automatically register you to vote. So it's up to you, the immigrant, to let the DMV know that you're not a U.S. citizen, you shouldn't be registering to vote, and they either won't register you, or if they register later find out, it's up to you to go back to the DMV and say, hey, I'm not a U.S. citizen, I can't register to vote, and they'll deregister you. And so that's pretty simple. If you register to vote accidentally, you can totally just unregister, you're fine, you won't have any issues applying for citizenship. The issue becomes, though, people that accidentally vote or they vote purposely because when they register for a driver's license, they're now registered to vote. So they think, oh, well, I must be able to vote then. So then they'll go out and vote, not realizing that you can't vote unless you're a U.S. citizen. And the issue is when you vote, if you have a green card and you accidentally vote or you vote because you got registered to vote so you think you can, you're making a false claim to U.S. citizenship. So not only will your citizenship application be denied because you voted illegally, but that could also land you in deportation proceedings, which could get you deported from the United States. And this is something that a lot of people don't really know. And again, you think that you can vote because they're registering you to vote, but in actuality, you can't.
My bangs are still in Nevada on that one. Like, they have blown clear through California and are into the next state. Because in California, I know I moved to California in 2003, and I think that far back, they were doing the automatic registration for voting when you got your driver's license. It also is if you get called for jury service, that's another time where you might just get an automatic registration. And then they've layered on the piece, like right now in the COVID era, they're doing they switched to, for the general election coming up in November, that everybody is just going to get a vote by mail ballot. But even before we got into the COVID era, in the last 3 or 4 elections, what I've noticed is my home, when the ballot showed up here, it didn't, where it used to be, they would send you the card and you had to send it back to say you wanted an absentee ballot. The last 3 or 4 elections, it has just come to my house that I just got a ballot. And what it actually says on it is that there is no polling place for your precinct because there are not enough registered voters within that precinct to warrant them having a polling place. And so they have made me, without asking me, a permanent mail-in voter. So that means they have hired me, and a ballot just shows up here. It would never occur to me, if I were in that situation, that I might be permanently barred from seeking citizenship and also barred from getting a green card and also being at risk of being deported because a ballot showed up in my house and I out and turned it in and it just said, fill in this and sign your name.
Right.
Like, that is still mind-boggling. Bang's still gone.
Or even worse, it gets delivered to the wrong address and your neighbor, not realizing it's not her name, fills it out, sends it in, but now it's under your name, under your registration. So now when you go to apply for citizenship and they say, oh, well, you've actually voted in, whatever election, you can't become a citizen. And you're like, that wasn't me. How are you going to prove that?
Right.
And same with jury duty as well. My grandfather, he had a green card, and every few years he would get a jury duty notice, and every time my mom would have to send it back and say he's not a citizen. So there's definitely cracks in the system, but if you're an immigrant here and maybe English isn't your first language, or you just, maybe you just don't really understand English and you get this thing in the mail, you're not really going to know what it is necessarily. You might go into jury duty by accident, or you might end up voting by accident, and that's going to impact your immigration status, which in the long run can impact your wealth and legacy building.
Yeah, so I heard 2 really important things. One of them is actually new to me. The whole voting issue was the one that just sent Allysia and me off the cliff. And because Bianca is always this calm, like this is her temperament, as far as I know, at least, we were just losing our minds. And she was like, yes, these are the facts. See what she's doing right now? How she's nodding? She's like, yes.
Yeah.
This is a fact.
Yeah, this happens all the time.
I'm like running around with my hair on fire.
Meanwhile, but so Naomi is having a very strong reaction here, and she is saying, because I think this is,
Naomi,
same I think this
girl.
is really important. She says, first of all, hold up, wait a minute. When you apply for a driver's license, they ask you if you're a U.S. citizen.
Not everywhere.
That it's true that maybe not everywhere, But if you respond in the negative, then why would they register you to vote? And if they register you to vote and you show up at the polling place to vote, what in the this is a complete dumpster fire. And I think that Naomi's reaction is like that. Naomi is me. That is an actual mirror, because sure, people may accidentally vote. They may know, they're not supposed to, and then somehow or another, do a ballot and send it back or whatever. But it may well be that people intentionally vote. They absolutely do, because what if I have a green card, I have a driver's license, I was registered to vote by the DMV, or I was told that I could, I grabbed the pamphlet or brochure or whatever and was allowed to register by the registrar of voters, or whatever the authority is that registers voters and presides over elections in your jurisdiction. I have done all of these things, and at no point did anybody tell me, no, I shouldn't do that. And then a ballot shows up at my home, or I am given, one of those cards to tell me where my polling place is. I show up to my polling place. I show them my driver's license. Actually, I shouldn't have to show them anything, but I show up to my polling place. I get my ballot and I cast my vote. At no point in this series of events why would I think that I've done something wrong? This feels authorized to me. Yeah. And so whether this is me, I'm a US citizen. I was born here and I speak English as my first language. I speak it, read it, research it, and research in it and practice in it. And I would not be on alert under those circumstances that something was wrong, or that I shouldn't, by outward appearances, that I shouldn't be casting this ballot. And so layer onto that situation somebody who has a ton of paperwork thrust in their face. I imagine that the immigration journey it contains a lot of paperworks, right? And so, you get accustomed to signing, right? And or maybe English is not is not the language that I conduct business in, right? I might socialize in that language, but I might not do official business in that language. It really feels very, very important. And I didn't know, I didn't even think about the jury summons, but of course the jury summons, because in most places, the jury rolls, the roll of potential jurors taken from the voter rolls. Like the registrar of voters is where they get your contact information in a lot of places to summon you for jury service. And the consequences of getting this wrong are enormous. It's So Naomi and I are in the same place going.
Yeah. And I can't remember in all the years I've voted, first of all, I've never been asked for an ID. I just go up and they ask me what my address is, and that's it. They've never asked me what my U.S. citizenship status or what my immigration status is. So the fact that you would think an immigrant would know these things is mind-boggling. But it's also one of those things where ignorance of the law is not an excuse, because it's in the Immigration and Nationality Act, which it's tough for, me as an immigration attorney to keep up with it. Never mind someone who, again, is new to this, maybe doesn't really understand English. How are they going to know? But that's the law. You can't vote unless you're a U.S. citizen. You can't register to vote unless you're a U.S. citizen. And like I said, Massachusetts just rolled this out, I think this year, actually. So we're trying to just make sure our clients know, like, they're going to register you to vote when you get your driver's license. Just make sure you remember, don't let them, or if they do, just unregister. But whatever you do, do not vote.
Can you talk for a second about any potential remedies for this. I heard the words permanent bar, and so permanent bar to me sounds like there is no undoing this, or there is no going back. But also, can you talk a little bit more about, how do I phrase it? Maybe how to deal with that situation. I'm thinking specifically about the DMV situation where we're in a public place. There are a lot of people around, and the potential for somebody to not want to discuss their immigration status there, and what a person who might feel a little reticent to talk about that in such a public forum, because not all places are and not all communities are as receptive to folks on their immigration journey as others. So can you talk about those two things? Like what can people do in either or both of those instances?
Sure. So if you have a green card and you got registered to vote either because you did it yourself or you did it automatically and you have not voted, then just unregister. You can just contact your city hall, or you can just go online in most states and you can just unregister to vote. So that's not an issue. If you actually did vote, that's the problem. So there's only one exception for people that voted, and that is if you were in the United States before you turned 16 and both of your parents were U.S. citizens at the time that you voted. And for a lot of people, that's not the case at all. And you have to reasonably believe that you thought you were a U.S. citizen, again, because your parents are U.S. citizens. Oftentimes that happens a lot where, like, for example, kids with DACA. There are a lot of mixed status families in the United States where children, have DACA. Some kids were born outside of the U.S. and then they have siblings who are born here. So they have siblings that are U.S. citizens, but they're not. But because the siblings that are U.S. citizens are citizens, they kind of maybe think that they're citizens as well. So that happens where they grow up thinking that they're U.S. citizens, because kids aren't going to say, hey, mommy, what's my immigration status? They have no reason to ask these things. A lot of children don't even know what their immigration status is until they're applying for college, and then realize that they don't qualify for financial aid because they don't have a green card or they're not a U.S. citizen. So in those cases, if you had a reasonable belief based on the fact that your parents are U.S. citizens, then that's fine, and you can kind of apply for a waiver of sorts, and that won't count against you. But if you don't have that option and you do end up in deportation proceedings, there is a very narrow waiver that you can try to apply for, but it's very difficult to get.
Okay. So the margin for error on this is, it's really, really slim. You got to get this right.
Right.
You got to get this right. So given how important that is, that leads me to Allysia, can I pass the mic to you to talk about the legacy crossover here, like where this might not have an estate planning crossover, right? But our work is both legacy and estate planning. So can you give some thoughts? Can you give some thoughts in this context?
Yeah, so the legacy piece that I see showing up here is just the implications that this creates for your family legacy. Because if it is the matriarch or patriarch of the family or the breadwinner of the family that gets caught in this little trip up here of kind of being set up in this way, as you're talking about kind of all these pieces of paper giving you indications that this is a thing you are supposed to do. And if you are watching TV, especially in an election year around here, and you hear about the right to vote and that it is your civic duty to do these things, and you're trying to contribute to society, and if you've taken any U.S. history class that started talking about Pilgrims and Mayflower and whatnot, and you're hearing about the Boston Tea Party or taxation without representation, and you paid your taxes, then you would have every right to believe, I got the papers, I'm registered, the stuff, I'm an engaged person here, so let me go and do my duty, my responsibility, and vote. And the legacy piece that I see coming up with that is that could derail an entire family structure. And I know that in a lot of immigrant communities, families work together. And so it's not just that one nuclear family that might be disrupted by that, but the rest of the family structure. So I'm thinking of a family that I know that I was talking to recently, that it was matriarch lives in the house with her two children and their spouses and their children. And so if something happened to matriarch that caused her to be deported or put her citizenship in question, her status here, that legacy, along with the fact that if there is an issue similar to that exception that you're talking about, Bianca, where you might have a family with mixed status, and that one thing can bring all of this into the family and impacts their legacy both here in being able to protect the things that they have here that they've been here building and working towards, but then also if they've been here building and working towards those things, then where is the go back to? Like, where are they supposed to go and start over? And what do they do? And how do they preserve the things that are here? So I see the legacy implications in this being huge as well, to make sure that that does not turn into any form of wasted effort.
This actually reminds me of a story that was shared earlier this year, actually. There was a guy who, he came to the United States when he was a baby, and his parents his whole life told him he was a U.S. citizen. They even had someone make a U.S. Birth certificate for him. So he thought he was a U.S. citizen, and he always thought that he kind of grew up thinking that he was a little bit better than immigrants because he thought he was a U.S. citizen, and he ended up becoming, I think he ended up becoming an ICE officer. So he kind of had the power to.
I heard this story.
Yeah, I didn't. Tell me. Yeah.
And so it was like a really long article, and on the one hand, I feel bad for him, and then on the other hand, it's also like, you know, you're an immigrant and you treated immigrants like crap, and now, so long story short, he goes to apply for citizenship because his wife is kind of like, you know, Trump's crazy, this, you know, and actually I think he voted for Trump actually. So so that's the other irony in all of this. He's an immigrant. He comes to find out he's actually a Mexican immigrant. He was not born in the United States. And apparently around the year that he was born, there was a midwife in Texas that was going around forging people's birth certificates. I think she forged about like 700 people's birth certificates. Wow. So he legitimately thought he was a U.S. citizen because that's what his parents told him. And all along, it turns out he's not. And he voted for Trump. And he thought, you know, I'm just going to tell the truth. I'm going to be honest. And, you know, the truth shall set me free in a way. And immigration is pretty much like, nope. Like, and he had won so many awards. They ended up firing him like 4 months shy of his retirement. So he lost his pension and everything. He's been here for like 30 years. And now he's going to face deportation because he admitted to voting for Trump in 2016. And he's not going to be able to, he might be able to get the exception, but maybe not. And he would need to, you know, and the other thing too is that this is essentially a permanent bar because there's no waiver for it. So typically, like, there are things that you can do from an immigration perspective. Like, for example, if you smoke weed, if you're caught with, you know, like 30 grams of marijuana, you can get waivers for these things. But if you ever vote illegally, there's no waiver for it. So it's kind of like a permanent bar. Even if he were to leave the United States, he might not ever be able to come back because he voted for Trump. But that's because he thought he was a U.S. citizen. And he can't use that exception because neither of his parents were U.S. citizens.
Wow.
And so he had a son that he had thought he'd passed U.S. citizenship onto, and similarly, his son was about to register to vote and apply for U.S. citizenship because his son thought he was a U.S. citizen, and he was literally on his way to go vote, and the man called him and said, you know, don't go vote. Turns out I'm not a U.S. citizen. So the son ended up having to go through his own immigration journey, getting a green card through his wife, but at least he'll still be able to stay here and live. But for his dad, I don't know what ended up happening. I don't know if they did officially deport him, but for his dad, he can never come back here. Meanwhile, he's been here, I think he's like in his 60s. He's been here his whole life, built a pension, worked and everything, and, you know, gone because he thought he was a U.S. citizen and he's not.
If that can happen to this man who, no matter who he voted for, what his political affiliation was, whatever his ideology was or is, he had zero reason to believe that he was not a citizen. And importantly, he didn't have any control in the process at any point. If this could happen to him, this could happen to anybody. Like regular, degular. I just, I've begun my U.S. Immigration journey. I'm excited to be here. It is election season. I need to vote. So I'm, and they sent me a ballot in the mail. Like, that person stands not a chance. Allysia, what are you going to say?
He even worked for the government.
Exactly. So did they not do background checks? Like, he worked for them for decades. He received so many honors and awards from them, so much recognition, so much love, because he wasn't, he wasn't one of the typical immigrants. He was kind of like a Trump supporting Mexican, and although he didn't know he was Mexican, but the people he worked with know that his family roots were in Mexico. So they were like, you're not like the other ones. They loved him to death. And as soon as they found out that he's not a U.S. citizen, they shunned him. They blacklisted him. They don't want to talk to him anymore. And so he finally started to see that, how this administration treats immigrants is how he was treating them. And now he was kind of receiving that treatment, and he didn't like it. And so he started to kind of change his ways and all that stuff.
Yeah, but he could not change his status.
That is a high cost to have to pay.
Yeah, so as a legal issue, like, I mean, we can talk about political ideologies all the live long day. Believe me, this big old head has plenty of thoughts in it. But but in the end, this guy has, it sounds like, no recourse
at all.
And it's difficult to identify a bad actor. This is where the ideological part starts to come in, because sure, people did things that were not right, like forging birth certificates, not right. Lying to your child about their immigration status, arguably not right. But these are not things that are violent crimes or are things like, what I'm saying, where we're trying to hurt somebody. It sounds like everybody was trying to protect this child, and he believed himself to be protected, and just poof. I really feel like it is so important for people to spread this gospel. Like, even if you never talk to a lawyer, you never come to a lawyer, you never see or say lawyer, even if you never do anything that has anything to do with a lawyer ever again in your whole entire life, tell somebody this. Yes. Tell somebody this. This is enormous. As Allysia was saying, the consequences to a family legacy of being permanently barred from achieving U.S. citizenship, when, by the way, people invest so much. I mean, sure, they invest time out of their lives, which is the most valuable resource, but this is not cheap. There is a lot of money on the line, and nobody gets any of it back. Like, there are no refund checks cut for any of those expenses. This is huge. Bianca, thank you.
And especially if you think about this man, he's been here for decades, all the money he's paid into Social Security and Medicare that he's never going to get any of now.
And his family won't get the pension.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if there were any, or the retirement benefits, right? Like, if there were any, if there were any retirement benefits that he was made ineligible for, that could have passed to his to his family, maybe his spouse or his children, or or whatever, then those people won't get those things, which means that that family line, that family legacy will be defunded to the tune of whatever the value of those benefits might have been. This is
I think it's even bigger than that. Like the defunding from that piece, but then there's also the piece of if he gets deported, for instance, does the whole family go and have to start over in a completely different country? And if not only have we lost that money, but now we've got to figure out running two households under potentially just one salary. This man is 60 years old. What new career is he starting in a country that he hasn't lived in his entire life? That he's starting over in. What is he supposed to do? So then if it's the family that's here in the US that is having to make the money and send it there, so then we're dividing the resources. And for somebody that is a retiree or a near retiree, which just kind of the way that works for most people, your costs actually go up at that point for the care and the things that you need. This is huge.
And on a related note, sometimes when parents are deported here in the United States and they have children that were born here that are minor, those children are U.S. citizens. But oftentimes when parents get deported, they bring their kids with them because they don't want to leave their kids here. So you're essentially depriving an American citizen of their 14th Amendment rights and bringing them to a country that maybe they don't know the culture, they don't speak the language. And maybe if they stayed in the United States, they'd be able to get an education here, build a career that would then help them get money to help support their family. And now they're kind of being robbed of that legacy building at that level as well.
Yeah. So this is like, just to sum up what I heard, if somebody is just joining, or if they were fast forwarding through my brightly colored outrage and went too far in the fast forward to get all of the details. So here's the summary I heard. If you are not, or suspect that you are not, a U.S. citizen, then do not register to vote. And by U.S. citizen, I mean have stood up and sworn the oath of citizenship and have received those signed citizenship papers. If you are not, no matter where you are in your immigration journey, no matter how close you are, no matter how far away you are, if you have not achieved U.S. citizenship, do not register to vote. If you have been registered to vote, because that just automatically happens through some other process, like getting a driver's license or something like that, then contact your voter registration authority and deregister. And even if you don't do either of those things, do not cast a ballot unless you're a U.S. citizen, or unless it is okay with you that you will be barred forever from achieving U.S. citizenship. The same rules apply to jury service. Do not serve on a jury. Do not show up for jury service, even if you get a jury summons, even if it seems like it is, it's on the right and it's on the up and up. And even if you feel compelled by duty to do that, those are natural, those are right feelings. And, as somebody who is immigrating to a new nation home, then it's normal that you would feel that way, but it could completely derail your immigration journey forever. And the legacy impacts of that are very, very difficult to calculate because they really are huge. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Excellent summary that takes us farther than my shrieking, "This is an outrage!" Good job.
All right. Well, I'm going to be mindful of time. We have probably talked longer than we might have intended to originally about this, but I have to tell you something. I don't care. This is important. And I'm really glad to have people know this and to have this resource available to them. Bianca, thank you so much. We will talk again, and it'll be on a Thursday in the future. Maybe are we planning to talk next week? In 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, and we'll promote the date, but it will be the same time, 7:30 p.m. It will definitely be on this channel. We're going to see if we can figure out a way to get the technologies to work where we can simulcast it to Bianca's channel as well. So, but tell somebody this. Please share this information broadly. And if you have follow-up questions about it, contact Bianca. Call her number, pay her rate. Get on her calendar. Check out her YouTube. Check out her Instagram. Tell people where they can find you, Bianca, and we'll put this information in the show notes as well.
Sure. So I am on Instagram. I'm Brazen Lawyer, and on YouTube you can look up Brazen Legal. I have over 100 videos at this point talking about a whole bunch of stuff. For the last couple of days, I've mostly been talking about green cards. I'm on a mission to get as many people as possible to apply for green cards this month, as much as I can, both because green cards are basically like the first real permanent step in your immigration journey, and also because the fees are about to go up like very, very soon. Right now, to adjust your status, it's $1,760. That's about to go up to about $2,200. Same with U.S. citizens. Now that we've been talking about U.S. citizenship, I really want to encourage people, if you qualify, meaning you've had a green card for 5 years, or 3 if you're married to a U.S. citizen, definitely think about applying for U.S. citizenship. Again, because the fees are going up. Right now, it's $725. If the proposed fee actually is approved, it's going to be about $1,200. This administration is making it more difficult for people to apply for benefits. So if you can do that now, get on it, because things are just going to get worse and more expensive. Okay. But you can reach me at Brazen Lawyer on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. You can look me up at Brazen Legal. And I love nerding out about this stuff. I could talk about immigration like all day, every day. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out.
Excellent. Thank you both so much. Allysia and I are at Dahlia Law Group. Allysia, where can the people find us?
On Instagram, you can find us at Dahlia Law, and Dahlia is spelled like the flower, Dahlia. You can also find us on the interwebs at our website, which is dahlialawgroup.com. And then we are also here on YouTube. And Bianca has over 100 videos, and our count at present is 3.
You gotta start somewhere.
But we're growing. This time 2 weeks ago, it was 0. So
that is correct. All right. Thank you both. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.